Hey folks, alright, well, this is the bonus lab for the course this term, so this can be used to replace your lowest other lab mark for the course, assuming that that actually improves your grade. It's purely optional, it's due at the same time as Lab 6 and the project, and again, worth the equivalent of one other lab. So for this one, there's, I guess, a fair bit more flexibility in terms of how I'll let you tackle this one, but also a fair bit less guidance on how to pull it off. Again, it's an optional lab, so I'm expecting you to do some investigation into what you need to make this work. So for this one, we're adding sort of two new sets of features to the language, and then, of course, providing the bash translation for those as well. So it's going to be affecting adding new parsing, new compile time checking, and new runtime functionality and new runtime testing in the bash code that's getting produced. So the two things that we're adding are essentially user input and walls in the map. So there's going to be 4 built-in functions that allow the user to enter a single literal. So allow the user to enter a string, or an AI name, or an integer, or a direction, north, south, east, or west. So there's 4 functions. They do nothing except attempt to read input from standard input, which is expected to be in the correct format, and then do runtime checking and return the result. The wall placement, essentially we've got 2 new routines that allow the creation of either a northwest facing wall, so a wall in one column if you like, or an east-west facing wall, or east-west running wall that again runs across a particular row. So for each of them you specify which row or which column it needs to go in, and then where the either left and right or top and bottom points are. So the 4 routines that we're creating, read int, read string, read name, read facing, and again the idea is they read a literal from standard input and return it. They'll need to do some error checking on that, of course, or horizontal wall or vertical wall, where you give it the 3 values that are appropriate, either which row and then the left and right columns that are the endpoints, or which column and then which, oops, that should be top and bottom row for that. I will fix that in just a moment. Specify which row numbers are the top and bottom points in that particular wall. So again, there's going to be the additional parsing, checking and whatnot to go along with this, and then it's going to, the bash code that's produced is also going to need to carry out some runtime checking. For the input, it's going to need to make sure that they enter something of the correct data type. And no prompting to re-enter or anything like that. It's just if it works, it returns it. If it doesn't, it returns some default value that I'll let you figure out. The horizontal wall and vertical walls, again, they're going to need to check that the values that they're given are actually in the map range. I'll let you decide what you want to do in terms of crossing walls. I think crossing walls would be a valid idea, but if you decide that, you know, if they want a wall more or less in the shape of a T, then they have to build it as possibly, you know, one horizontal and then build the other 2 pieces that match up to it correctly. You can handle that however you like. Again, fair bit more flexibility in this one. Just make sure that you're really clear in writing up what the specifications for it are, what it's trying to do, and we'll take things from there. So again, it's got to do runtime checking to make sure that, you know, these aren't running off the edges of the map, or they're not trying to be placed off the edge of the map. As always, you know, following the building from Lab 6. So everything from Lab 6 plus what's being added here. So I think those are the biggest concerns with this one. Again, same deadline as everything else. And if you've got questions on the specs or on different aspects of the lab, you know, feel free to let me know, and we'll see how we go. All right, folks.